Thing I could say to someone thinking about joining Home Service Academy is if you think that it's possible, all you need is the motivation, which if you don't even have the motivation at the time, you're going to get the motivation through the HSA family that is going to push you and drive you to essentially achieve goals.
Why did you join Home Service Academy?
So I joined Home Service Academy to essentially add revenue to my larger investments. This was not like a replacement of income for me, but it could be, which I think we're at week 6 now. And I think I've cleared almost $25,000 at the end of week 6. In the first 2 weeks, I believe I cleared almost $7,000 with input costs, and that's with a 60% margin. I've been a business owner of 3 or 4 other companies also. 2 of them I've recently sold out of, and this is a replacement for some of my spare time, and I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. What has been the best part of your experience at Home Service Academy?
By far the coaching has been my favorite thing of the whole thing, and the community to try and plug in with other people who are also going through the same struggles as you, to kind of bounce ideas off of, or different headache situations. Both the coaching aspect and the academy and the kind of tight-knit family community that HSA has created, for me was very beneficial to the learning aspect, because I came from very little cleaning experience, but I came from business owner experience, and I was able to plug that in and kind of learn a new niche that I didn't really know existed, and I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. What have you achieved by being in Home Service Academy? So this could be monetary, could be learning how to be a business owner, any kind of skills that you've achieved.
Definitely dealing with a lot of different characters. I've dealt with sales before in other businesses I've owned, and the kind of clientele you can kind of, I hate to say people judge over the phone, but I feel like I've gotten really good at judging how a certain person with a certain kind of monotone is going to respond to either a number or a question. I feel like I have learned not just a different part of sales that I probably could use as going, if I wanted to get into like higher ticket sales. I kind of like the lower ticket sales, and just to do a lot more, it creates a lot more like business relationships with clients, and it's a lot easier to close deals when you're not asking for their 401k or something. To me, that was really easy. And then just structuring it to learn kind of a new aspect of business that I never thought in a million years I would be involved in.
Okay. And what advice do you have for someone thinking about joining Home Service Academy?
The best thing I could say to someone thinking about joining Home Service Academy is if you think that it's possible, all you need is the motivation, which if you don't even have the motivation at the time, you're going to get the motivation through the HSA family that is going to push you and drive you to essentially achieve goals you never thought you originally had. For example, like my whole goal going into this was to create a passive income source that would take home a margin of about 40 to 50%. And if I could do 20,000 and take home 10, that to me is what I was like, I think I can do it. And I'm not even 6 weeks in, and my margin is currently 60%, and I'm on track to do, I think, almost 35K for the month of April at a 60% margin. And now we're talking about how can we get it to 50 or 100 in the next 3 to 6 months. So again, going from a $20,000 goal to now $100,000 goal passively with a margin of still 50 to 60%. Very, very, very doable. I also come from a farming background, with every year, if you can even make $1 in farming, that's a good year. And a trucking background, which I think this year our margin was the best margin yet. For a smaller size trucking company, we have 8 trucks, and our margin was like 41%, which is the best it's been in 3 years. There are years, our first year, I think our margin, without startup costs, I think our margin, we made like 21%. So talking about businesses, margin is the thing I'll preach again. If you make $100,000 a month, that's great, but what's your margin if you only take home 10% of it? You did $100,000 worth of work for 10 grand. Don't think it's worth it. That was the big thing for HSA, was the margin. If you can hold margin and still make a bunch of money, that will do wonders, especially if you're looking at creating passive income for not just 3 or 4 years, but 5 or 10, where you can set it up and almost forget about it in 6 months. If you put in the work up front, it'll pay dividends down the line.
That's awesome. What's one thing that surprised you about Home Service Academy that you didn't expect?
The one thing that surprised me about HSA was definitely the amount of heavy hitters that I didn't know existed. I thought everyone was, for the most part, trying to just make, again, like 20, 30,000 passively, take home 50%. There was a couple people who are only 3 or 4 hours away from me that were also involved in HSA, and was just having conversations with some of those people. One of them came from a real estate background. He was like, oh yeah, no, like my goal was 50,000 a month with 25% margin. And then that same person, I don't know, not even a couple weeks later, was like, yeah, no, I'm on track at 84,000, looking to hit about 100K a month. I was like, ooh, now we're getting into where you got a lot bigger heavy hitters. And for someone who's as competitive as I am, that kind of drives me and kind of puts fuel under the fire even more than it already is. So to me, it was a big drive, because again, I thought most of us were, hey, if we can make 20 or 30 a month, take home 50%, we're happy. Most of these guys that I thought would be content with that are like, okay, if we can do it at 30, like what do we need to scale to 50, 100, 150? That's what I was like, oh, that definitely woke me up a little bit. Because again, coming from other businesses, if you can keep a 60% margin at 100K times 12, you're $1 million business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was a big selling point for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was all the questions I have for that. Thank you.